Hey everybody, I'm back. Hopefully this time the recording's a lot better than it's been in the past because I have a new microphone. So on Monday, let me know how well you guys liked it or didn't like the way it was recorded this time. Today's chapter is going to be Railways to Everywhere and the Rise of Unions. What happens in Canada after the original CPR is built is the 20 years of exclusivity runs out, and there's a boom to try and build railways all over Canada to try and link Canada to different areas of resource management in particularly. So as you'll see later on, you're going to see all kinds of different railways expansion. The economy in Canada was booming during the Laurier period, and with the boom come the construction of two new transcontinental railways through the west, the Canadian Northern Railway and the Grand Trunk Railway. Both come as farmers became fed up with the CPR and the high prices they're being charged for shipping. You have to remember the CPR was given a monopoly during this time period. That means there was absolutely no competition allowed. So after the exclusivity ran out, these other countries came in and there was more of a price war. So that means the CPR had to drop its prices because if they didn't, they wouldn't be competitive anymore. And this is all a boom to the different farmers to help make them better. They also came at a time where most of the land around the CPR had been taken and people were having to move farther away. Remember, all the land that was given to the CPR for building, they decided who was where and what. So a lot of the farmers had to travel great distances in order to get their crops and things to the CPR. So with the Grand Trunk and the Canadian Northern Railway, the people had to travel less distances, and it made it cheaper for them to do that. The Canadian Northern Railway and the Grand Trunk Railway sought federal and provincial aid to build the railways. The Canadian Northern Railway extended its prairie line eastward to Quebec and west on a northern route to the Pacific. In 1901, BC invited owners William Mackenzie and Donald Mann to extend their line through the Yellowhead Pass and down the Thompson River to Kamloops and through to Vancouver. If any of you have ever driven to Edmonton and taken Highway 5 and gone north, gone through Kamloops and headed north, that is the original route that the Yellowhead Pass followed. So as you drive through the Yellowhead Pass and through the national parks there, you can see the railway. Well, that was the original railway that went through there. Mackenzie and Mann eventually built a financial business empire that included the railways, mining, lumber, and shipping. The Grand Trunk expended much of the same with government encouragement, but this time it came from Laurier, who agreed to build a section eastward for areas not serviced by the CPR, the Canadian Northern. So this is generally getting a lot of the railway to eastern Canada. The Grand Trunk followed the same western route as the Canadian Northern through the Yellowhead Pass, but it continued across northern BC to Prince Rupert. So instead of going through Yellowhead Pass and going south to Vancouver and Kamloops, it went straight across to Prince Rupert and opened up a seaport at Prince Rupert. With the outbreak of World War I, all the new railways that were not part of the CPR were consolidated into one. This was done to avoid the financial hardships because they were becoming unprofitable with less immigration and British capital. Basically, as World War I starts, the economy completely changes and less people are actually immigrating at this point. So there's less money coming in. So these railways, the government realizes that these railways need to have some competition. So instead of completely closing them all down and the CPR being by itself, they decided to combine all the little independent railways, and that became known as this Canadian National Railway, which is owned by the people. But you have to understand the Canadian National Railway is also known as CN today. As you can see on this map here, the railways originally was across the southern route. Now, as you can see here, this is the original CPR route through into Canada. As you can see, here's the more northern route all the way through to what is Prince Rupert, and you can see it goes north up into what the Peace River area is. It goes all the way up to the Northwest Territories, all the way up through to Churchill and through Canada. So you can see originally there was only one rail line. Now there's multiple rail lines going through Canada and going to many different places in Canada as well. The rise of unions in Canada. Canada was prosperous, but the prosperity of the time was something that had not been shared equally. A few major corporate giants controlled the majority of the industry and finance of the country. example, Imperial Oil, which is now known as Esso, Massey Harris, and Dunsmuir Coal. If any of you have been to Victoria, you'll know the name Dunsmuir, as it is an area in Victoria, and it's also got a castle named after it. Few people in the population were able to see any of the money in these companies, and their wealth sharply contrasted that of the poor working class people. These rich oligarchs basically made all the money and kept the poor people poorer while they got richer and richer. And what happens is the poor people and the workers finally get tired of being treated this way and want to do something about it. So many of these guys flaunted their wealth and built huge mansions at home for themselves. This is Craigdarroch Castle in Victoria. The gap between the working class and the wealth grew bigger, and workers began to look to share their wealth and generated their own owners and generated for the owners of business. Another example of Craigdarroch Castle. Labor unions began to arise between 1880 and 1910. Approximately 10% of all workers joined a union during this time period. The problems unions faced that was the employers could easily replace the workers. So if you were caught trying to create a union, many of the people were fired because of that. And we have to remember, during this time period, there's no protectionism of employees. The governments essentially favored the rich owners because they gave them more money. Companies had private police to deal with any disturbances that may have arisen from the public protest or people wanting to go on strike. Between 1910 and World War I, there was a number of different violent confrontations that erupted between employers and workers. Coal miners in Nanaimo who worked for the Dunsmuir family were involved in a 2-year strike over unsafe working conditions and low pay. If you look at page 270 in your textbook, that's what covers it. You have to understand, many of these people were fighting for their freedom and fighting for prosperity, so they would do anything they could to go from there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Hopefully things on the recording were good enough for you guys.